Today's a big day. Today, Inside Out 2 releases in theaters. The movie that'll bring awareness of hand-drawn animation as something people do to a much bigger audience. Sure, there were attempts at showing animation as a career in movies in the past, specifically Son of the Mask and What If, also known as the F word in other countries. But considering how many kids watch Pixar movies, I feel like those kids seeing those animation desks are gonna end up becoming animators one day, or at the very least learn more about animation. Also, tomorrow's the 30th anniversary of The Lion King, one of Disney's biggest Renaissance movies. Also, this year is the 30th anniversary of the Broadway version of Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Also, going off topic for a little bit, speaking of Beast, I got to try the Mr. Beast Feastables bar the other day, and the best way I can describe it is if Hershey's used high quality ingredients that Dove chocolates use. It's like a mixture of Hershey's and Dove chocolates. Anyway, before I go out and see the new movie, I'd like to take this video and do a review of the original Inside Out movie, and share with you 2 books that I have that center around Pixar: the Animator Sketchbook and Pixar storytelling. So, Inside Out centers on the emotions of 11-year-old Riley Anderson, who moves with her family from Minnesota to San Francisco. Joy, the first of Riley's emotions, works hard to keep Riley happy, but finds it much more difficult with the big move happening. On the first day of school, Joy and sadness, the second of Riley's emotions that Joy has very little understanding of, get sucked out of headquarters, leaving fear, disgust, and anger to keep things under control. As the movie goes on, Joy slowly begins to understand sadness on their way back to headquarters, befriending Riley's old imaginary friend Bing Bong along the way. But Riley is falling apart due to anger, making some unintended mistakes and trying to keep her happy in Joy's absence, escalating with anger, putting an idea in her head to have her run away back to Minnesota. In the end, sadness saves the day by removing the idea from the control panel, helping Riley express her sadness in the process, which leads to her recovery and the creation of new personality islands. Now, I'd like to address a few things about the movie. For one thing, many people believe that Joy would have died if she had stayed in the memory dump, which is leading many people to believe that sadness might die in the memory dump, mostly based on the images we've seen of the upcoming movie. I'd like to point out that when Joy and Bing Bong got stuck in the memory dump, Bing Bong was already in the process of dying the moment they got there. If Joy were to have died, she would have started disappearing along with Bing Bong. So I believe sadness will be fine. I've also heard theories that Riley was adopted, but I personally don't believe that, because from what I understand, genetics can work in mysterious ways. Inside Out had no real villain per se, but then again, Beauty and the Beast didn't have a villain either until Disney made their own version of the story. However, it could be argued that in this movie, life is the main antagonist, because life can be full of hurdles that we all must overcome at one point or another. Anyway, for a movie about emotions, this movie managed to move my soul near the end, and based on Pixar's track record with sequels, I feel like we can expect the same thing to happen in Inside Out 2. Anyway, now I'd like to share with you the books I have about Pixar. The first one we'll be taking a look at is called The Animator Sketchbook. As you can see, it has 5 sections in it. One for concept art, one for storyboarding, one for the color script, one for character development, and one for world building. Each section begins with a paragraph on how to use each section to its full potential, such as this one. Throughout the pages, there are 13 bits of wisdom from the people who work at Pixar put into sentences. Again, like this one. The story section is the largest section, which is fitting because story is the most important part of any animation. The color script is supposed to tell your crew what each scene is supposed to look like, such as if the mood is supposed to be warm or cold, or if it can be understood with little to no dialogue. The book has 608 storyboard panels, 76 color script panels, 4 pages for character scaling, like this, and the whole book combined is 171 pages total. The next book I want to share is called Pixar Storytelling, which goes into great detail about what makes Pixar's stories so compelling. Anyway, the book has 10 chapters, as well as an additional chapter that gives thoughts to the aspiring artist. The chapters go over choosing and developing your ideas, creating and casting characters, creating empathy, drama, and conflict. It goes over villains, themes, endings, and goes over the story structure that Pixar uses. The version I have is the second edition, which goes over some parts of Inside Out. At the end of each chapter, it gives you your own do-it-yourself project to help you create your own stories. One thing I'd like to bring up about the book is that it says that Pixar movies has two types of villains: the malevolent evil ones and the benevolent troublesome ones. An antagonist isn't always a person, nor is it always a villain. It could be a force of nature, a place, or anything that gets in the way of the protagonist's goals. Anyway, here are some examples of malevolent evil villains that the book gives. Sid from Toy Story, Stinky Pete from Toy Story 2, Lotso from Toy Story 3, Randall from Monsters Incorporated, Skinner from Ratatouille, and Muntz from Up. Now here are some examples of the benevolent, troublesome antagonists. Buzz from Toy Story, Jessie from Toy Story 2, Boo from Monsters Incorporated, Russell from Up, Linguini from Ratatouille, and Sadness from Inside Out. Evil antagonists have no regard for morals, fairness, or the well-being of others. The troublesome antagonists just cause the protagonists grief, derailing their attempts at reaching their goals, even when they don't mean to. When you remember that the Beast was the true protagonist in Disney's Beauty and the Beast, this ideology of troublesome and evil villains fits in perfectly, with Belle being the former and Gaston being the latter. I know I said before that Inside Out doesn't have a real villain per se, maybe except for life, but when you put it into perspective, Joy's belief that Riley should always be happy was the evil antagonist all along. Basically a protagonist versus self thing. The book says that Pixar goes out of its way to avoid cliches when making their movies, and they often have self-imposed limitations for their stories, such as the monsters in Monsters Incorporated not being allowed to destroy buildings or cities. Self-imposed limitations can help you reach your artistic pursuits by helping you get creative with those limitations, which is why Aladdin only got 3 wishes in the Disney adaptation instead of unlimited wishes, or why the Enchanted Rose was made into a ticking clock for Disney's version of Beauty and the Beast, because the limitations help the team get creative. Also, in Chapter 2, it says that when Pixar does a prologue or flashback for a movie, particularly longer ones, they treat it as if it's its own separate, independent short film. Anyway, I know that there are many more books about Pixar that I don't own. Speaking of which, The Art of Inside Out 2 released last month. Anyway, I haven't fully, truly discovered the purpose of the art of books, but when I do, I might make a video explaining their purpose. Well, that's all the reviews I have for today. I'll probably do a review of Inside Out 2 after I see it, so go check out the movie, I guess. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you next time.